guys, Andy here. I'm back with my Moto E, which I picked up before the weekend. You may have seen the unboxing video. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I've not used the phone a great deal. So what I'm explaining now won't be massively different necessarily to the unboxing. But I thought I'd give you my thoughts on the device. Usually when I'm reviewing a phone, I'll use it for a week or so to then tell you how I feel about it. I just couldn't bring myself to use this for that long, to be honest. I used it for obviously a few hours here and there. I took it to work with me, but I had my Note 3 with me too, and I just couldn't. It is an actual budget device, basically, is my problem. And I couldn't bring myself to do it, but still, I've used it enough that hopefully I can talk you through the good points, the bad points, and just about the phone itself. So we'll start off with the design. I think it's quite a nice design. It's in a very similar mold to the Moto G. I think it's all quite stylish. You'll notice straight away on the back, one of the things it's missing though, there's no flash for the camera. Okay, that's fine. It's going to limit you very much obviously in darker scenarios. And actually there's no front-facing camera. So these are the proximity sensors and whatever else, but there's no actual front-facing camera. The phone itself weighs 142 grams, which is fairly normal I suppose, although with it being a smaller device you might have hoped it was a little bit lighter. It is, I would say, slightly chunky, so that's quite thick really for a small device. It's an interesting silver bar design. I quite like it really. It's I mean, it looks slightly cheapo, but at the same time it's interesting design. That's the speaker as well as the microphone somewhere down there, and obviously the earphone. It does have a very strong, very loud, one of the strong points of the device, a very good speaker. The back plate is changeable as well. Let me just see if we can. It's quite tough to pull off, but it does come away, and it's supposed to come away. It's not me breaking the device. So changeable back plates like the Moto G had. You can see in there the non-removable 1980 mAh battery. You can also see, while we've got this off, the SIM slot. Let's try and see which way around it is. So that's the slot for the SIM card, and that's the slot for a micro SD card. So that's one advantage it has over my Moto G, definitely. I forget if there was one released that had a micro SD slot, but expandable memory. A lot of people will be very happy to see that. I'm assuming that there's these are the aerials just on the edges there, but I'm not entirely sure. So there we go. From out of the box it comes in either white or in black. I quite like the white design. They've even done the bezel white, which is quite nice. I don't think it's quite as stylish. I've just got my Moto G here. I like the back plate is separate to the rest of the phone colour-wise. I don't know, so if I was to get a blue back plate, would it look a bit weird with a white and then blue? I don't know. But then again, you have the choice when you're buying black or white. So the actual hardware inside the Moto E is a Snapdragon 200, which runs at 1.2 gigahertz. I think that chip is actually only about a year old. I might be wrong. Only about a year old, but it's been designed specifically for budget devices such as the Moto E here. The GPU is an Adreno 302, again, which is a much lower powered chip to most of the modern day high-end phones. The screen itself is 540 by 960 pixels. Over 4.3 inches, that's a 256 pixel per inch pixel density. And I don't know, the colours are reasonable, the contrast is reasonable, but the viewing angles are pretty terrible. So I'm going to try and show you. As we angle it away, very quickly it becomes very faded. This is on auto brightness, and very quickly it becomes very faded. And even when you look at it head on, it sometimes almost feels like it fades a little bit in and out. It's just slight bits of movement. I don't know how visible that is on the camera. So the screen isn't very good, bottom line. And I suppose this is what kind of disappointed me a little bit. The Moto G, it was a budget device, but the only thing really you could fault it on was the camera, I felt. The screen was very good, the colours looked amazing, the speaker was really, really good, the build quality was good, the design was good, and it was just the camera. But in this, the more things that I sort of played with, the more things I realised it is a budget phone, and you can tell it's a budget phone. On the plus side, it does have Gorilla Glass 3 protecting the screen. So there's 4 gig of space on device. Available only 1.03 looks, so I really haven't installed very much on here at all, and it's already almost half full. Obviously does the micro SD slot though, so you hope that wouldn't be too big an issue. There is also 1 gig of RAM in the device, which actually isn't too bad. Okay, again, high-end phones these days going with 2, but 1 gig really isn't too bad. It doesn't have 4G, but it does have Bluetooth 4.0, which is the low energy version, and it does have a built-in FM radio, and it's also splash resistant, so you know, in theory, spill your beer on it and you're probably okay. The camera I've mentioned is 5 megapixel. It does look very similar, the results look very similar to that of the Moto G, which is unfortunately not very good. When it's recording video, the best it can record at is 480p, which in this day and age, that's really not very good. I could have accepted and been reasonably happy if it had at least managed 720p, the sort of the lower version of high def, but 480p is really quite disappointing. I'll pop some footage on screen there for you to use, for you to look at. There is a whole separate video of some sample footage. I mean, the shutter release is reasonably quick. It's not a problem in that respect, and I actually quite like the sort of the interface. But definitely the camera is a bit of a weak point. Software wise, we're running here at the moment on Android 4.4.2. You see all the information on the screen there. So it's the latest version of Android, and the Moto G showed that Motorola are committed to getting out pretty quick updates, because it's not really any sort of I mean, it's generally pretty much like stock, so when updates come along, it's very easy for Motorola to get the updates out. It also has quite an interesting application. So a lot of the junk you get on these things, like we call them bloatware, is pretty naff, but Motorola Alert seems actually quite useful, in that you can, sort of, for if you have an issue. So if we've got an emergency, I'd almost want to tap it in case I don't want to be texting my friends and family saying, "Oh my God, Andy's been hurt. Please come and help." But let's try this one. So message text: "Please meet me. Meet location." Blah 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 blah. So you can, I think the theory here is if you're giving it to your kid perhaps, and he just needs to let you know where he is or whatever, or her, she is. It's very easily done. So they can easily send GPS coordinates. Or you know, if you're picking your kid up from the shops or something, they can say, "Right, I'm ready, come and get me," and you will get a message saying exactly where they are, which does sound, it sounds kind of useful. I'm not sure what follow me is. I think okay, that's going to give regular. I mean, that would be a bit like just latitude does really, or locations now in Google Plus. Oh dear, excuse my runny nose. So that does actually seem to be quite a useful application. So I mentioned earlier the battery, 1980 milliamp hours. Now, as I said, I've not really been using this device, so this perhaps makes it look better than it really is. But as you can see, this has been on for 3 days now, and it's still at 58%. Battery saver mode isn't on, so that's just how it is. But I think you'll see if we look at screen, it's probably only going to be like 13 minutes. So since I charged it to full, I have barely touched it. But it would indicate to me that it's very similar to the Moto G. I can leave the Moto G on my desk. I have that logged into my Android Andy account, and that will sit there for a week really, and it'll, I'll check every now and then for some alerts, and it will last the whole week. And this is indicating, I mean, that's off the first charge as well, so it's likely to get better after 4, 5 or 6 battery cycles. The Moto G would quite easily last 2 days, and this having only a slightly smaller battery, but also having a smaller screen, less pixels, less going on in the device, I would be, I wouldn't be surprised if people are saying they can easily get 3 days life from it. Maybe. Unfortunately, as I say, because I didn't quite have the commitment to go whole hog and use this as my main device, I can't back that up necessarily. That's just a bit of a hunch. Please let me know in the comments if you own one of these. Let me know about the battery, but I really think that'll be one of the strengths of the device as well. If we talk about sort of the hackability of it, at this point it's very early days. It's only been out, well, probably less than a week right now. I've looked on XDA developers. there is a way to get root, there is a way to put a custom recovery on there, but as yet there's no ROMs. Most people probably won't mind too much because it's stock Android pretty much, and people generally quite like stock Android anyway these days. So, all in all, how do I feel about the Moto E? I won't lie, I'm a little disappointed. The Moto G, I don't know if I go quite as far as saying it blew me away, but I was really impressed by the Moto G at a very cheap element. You could buy the Moto G for under £100, and the only thing that really let it down was the camera. Well, yeah, the camera really. I mean, the rest of it was very good. The Moto E, I just wonder if they've come back just that one bit too far, and there's too many budget items now on this. So the screen really is quite poor, the camera is quite poor. I mean, it just feels to me, it does feel a bit like a budget device. I think it needs to drop another £30. So if you could buy this for £60 or £65, I think that would be a good buy. Having said that, the positives, it is very smooth. You know, there's barely any lag. I mean, again, there's not a huge amount installed, but the hardware inside it is enough for it to function very well as a smartphone. You know, even to playing games, as I will show you. You know, that's all very smooth, I would say. There's no slowdown, there's no lag. So I think, to me, it's kind of an ideal phone to give to your kids, especially with the Motorola Alerts software built in, and then bearing in mind that it's splash resistant and it's got Gorilla Glass 3. I always struggle saying that. You know, it's sounds like it's relatively kiddie proof. So I think if it dropped, I mean, maybe I'm being too high saying it's going to drop £30. Maybe if it dropped just another £20, it came down to about £70. This would be the kind of device that you'd probably be best off getting for your kid, or maybe like one of your grandparents. I don't know if they could cope with a smartphone, but it's that kind of. It's not really the device that even I wouldn't even say hardcore smartphone user, any just sort of fairly regular smartphone user might not be too pleased with. If you know, I would recommend save up that extra £30 or so and get yourself the Moto G. But I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on it. It's a reasonable device, it's at a good price, it does have a few strengths, there's a few nice things about it, mainly the price, but the Gorilla Glass 3, the splash resistance, the micro SD card, you know, it's not horrific, it really isn't for me. There you go, but let me know your thoughts. You might drastically disagree. I see a lot of people being very positive about it in other sort of reviews or on podcasts. Everyone's really positive. I just struggle. It really is dropped down into that budget category for me, and I would. It just seems a big drop from the Moto G, and it's only a small price difference. So, but yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hopefully, there's others that are perhaps a bit more positive than me. I don't know. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.